The winter of the hollow oak. You think your winter is hard when the power flickers and your phone dies before you can order soup. But let me take you somewhere colder, deeper, where winter isn't an inconvenience. It's a reckoning. It's November 1352. You wake not to an alarm, but to the silence of snow already fallen. Your name is Eleanor of Weishwood, and you are 15 winters old. The air in your home smells of damp wool, wood smoke, and the faint musk of the goat tethered near the hearth. Your fingers are numb despite the sheepskin wrapped around your shoulders. Outside, the world is muffled under a thick blanket of white, and the wind howls like a thing with teeth. Your father, Gareth, has already gone off to check the snares before dawn bled into day. Your mother, Isabel, stirs the pot over the fire, her knuckles red from cold and labor. She doesn't speak much these days, not since the fever took your baby brother last spring. But her hands never stop moving, stirring, mending, stacking firewood, checking the grain chest for signs of weevils. This is your second winter since the Black Death swept through the valley. Half the village is gone. Some houses stand empty, their roofs sagging under snow, their doors hanging open like slack jaws. Others, like yours, are crowded. Your uncle and his 2 sons moved in after losing their own cottage to fire last autumn. 6 souls now share one room, 20 feet by 12, walls of wattle and daub blackened by decades of smoke. But you've learned to live small. The feast that wasn't, St. Martin's Day, came and went without celebration. No pig was slaughtered this year. Your family kept only the goat and 1 scrawny hen, both too precious to kill. The harvest was thin, barley blighted by early frost, turnips stunted, apples few and worm-eaten. You traded your best spindle-whorl for a handful of salt at the miller's, and your mother cried that night, not from sorrow, but from shame. Salt was life, and you had barely enough to preserve a single ham. Still you made do. You dried mushrooms in the rafters. You pickled the last of the cabbages in vinegar saved from summer. You boiled pine needles into tea for your uncle's cough and ground acorns into flour when the barley ran low. Every scrap mattered. Every ember counted. Winter taught you that. The night the roof leaned in late December, the snow fell for 3 days straight. Not gently, but in great, suffocating waves that buried the path to the well and bent the branches of the old yew tree until they snapped like bones. On the 4th night you heard it a groan from above, deep in the thatch. Then a crack. "The roof," your uncle whispered, already on his feet. You all scrambled from your pallets, dragging blankets and children toward the center of the room. Snow poured through a widening gap near the ridgepole, melting instantly on the hearthstones. Gareth and your cousin Tobias climbed onto the roof with shovels, their breath steaming in the moonlight, while Isabel and you packed the breach from inside with wet straw and dung, the old daub recipe, sticky and foul-smelling, but it held. By dawn the wind had shifted. The snow stopped, and the roof, though patched like a beggar's cloak, held. You ate thin gruel in silence, your hands shaking not from cold, but from relief. The gift of elderberries January brought ice so thick it sheathed the river in glass. Children dared each other to walk its surface, though everyone remembered the boy who fell through 2 winters past and was never seen again. It was during this brittle month that Widow Cresswell, who lived alone in the crooked cottage by the ford, fell ill. Her fire went out. Her water froze, and no one noticed until you did. You'd been set to gather moss for kindling and saw her shutters closed at midday. A bad sign. You knocked. No answer. You pushed the door open. She lay curled on her pallet, shivering, her lips blue. You ran home, breathless, and told your mother. Isabel didn't hesitate. She filled a flask with hot ale and honey, wrapped a loaf of yesterday's bread in cloth, and sent you back with it and with instructions. Stay, keep her fire lit, sing to her if she drifts. For 3 days, you slept on her floor, feeding her sips of broth, rubbing her feet to bring back the blood. On the 4th morning, she opened her eyes and whispered, "Child, you've the heart of a saint." She gave you nothing in return, had nothing to give, but 2 weeks later, when your own cough turned deep and wet, she appeared at your door with a pouch of dried elderberries and a vial of oil infused with thyme. "Steep it," she said. 3 times a day you recovered. And you never forgot. The hunger gap, by late February, the hunger gap yawned wide. The barley was gone. The cheese, moldy at the core. The last wheel of it was scraped thin, the rind boiled into soup for flavor. You dreamed of bread, real bread, not the gritty loaves made from ground peas and ash. Your cousin Tobias tried to trap rabbits, but the snow was too deep, the animals too clever or too dead. Your father walked to the manor house to ask for work. They gave him a half loaf and the task: clear the ice from the Lord's stable gutters. He came home with frostbite on 2 toes. Still, no one complained. Complaining didn't fill bellies, but sharing did. One evening, Brother Aldrich, the young monk who tended the chapel, brought a sack of dried peas left over tithes meant for the poor. "Eat," he said. "Spring is coming." You didn't believe him. Not yet. But then, in early March, you heard it, the call of a thrush in the hollow oak at the edge of the field. A sound you hadn't heard since last May. Hope, feathered and fragile. The first green by April, the world began to breathe again. Snowdrops pierced the earth near the churchyard wall. The ice on the pond cracked and sighed. You and your sister Maud went out with baskets, fingers numb but hearts light, to gather dandelion greens and young nettles. Your mother boiled them with the last of the salt pork, and for the first time in months, the pot smelled like life. You planted your garden with trembling hands, peas, beans, leeks, and a few precious garlic cloves, saved from last year's crop. Every seed was a prayer. One evening, as you sat by the fire mending a torn tunic, your mother reached over and tucked a strand of hair behind your ear. "You've grown," she said softly. "Stronger." You didn't answer, but you felt it, the weight of winter lifting, not just from the land, but from your bones. Epilogue. The cycle turns. You never speak of that winter, not in full. Not the nights you lay awake listening to your cousin's stomach growl, or the morning you found your mother crying over an empty grain sack, but you remember. And when your own daughter wakes shivering in November, you show her how to bank the fire. You teach her to dry mint in the rafters, to wrap hot stones in wool, to share bread with the widow next door, because winter always returns. But so do we.